The Kalthari enforcement fleet materialized above Earth expecting compliance. What they found was 47 fusion detonations blooming across their forward screen. Fleet Commander Zartok watched his shields absorb the primitive nuclear strikes with barely a flicker. 73 warships against a species restricted to their homeworld for 2 centuries. This would take hours at most. His secondary mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he opened the suppression protocol transmission. Attention, human authority. You have violated Galactic Council Decree 7845 by developing prohibited weapons systems. Surrender your manufacturing centers within 1 solar rotation or face orbital reduction. The response came faster than expected. A human female, gray-haired and calm, appeared on the view screen. Her identification tagged her as Director Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Coordination. Commander Zartok. We've been expecting you. Her smile held no warmth. Though I'm disappointed you only brought 73 ships. We counted 89 in the task force at Proxima. Zartok's thermal pits flared. Intelligence suggested humans lacked deep space detection capability. The missing vessels are irrelevant to your situation. Surrender protocols are declined, Chen interrupted. You have 6 hours to withdraw beyond the heliopause. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. The audacity stunned him. Across the command deck, junior officers exchanged bewildered looks. You possess 47 orbital stations and no ships capable of faster-than-light travel. My fleet has subjugated 17 systems. This is not negotiation. No, Chen agreed. It's not. Clock's running, Commander. 6 hours. The transmission ended. Zartok's tactical officer, a young Kalthari named V.S. Tin, pulled up the scans. Defense stations show standard configuration. Railgun emplacements, missile batteries, point defense networks. Pre-FTL technology, 40 years obsolete. Combined throw weight insufficient to penetrate our screening elements. And yet they detonate nuclear weapons as a greeting. Zartok studied the tactical display. Earth's 47 stations formed a loose shell around the planet, each one bristling with visible weaponry. Primitive, yes, but positioned with surprising sophistication. Run threat assessment on station firepower. The numbers appeared within seconds. Even assuming perfect targeting and no countermeasures, the human stations could damage perhaps 12 ships before being obliterated. Acceptable losses for enforcing Council law. Begin suppression pattern Delta 4. Target their military infrastructure. Avoid population centers per Council directive. Zartok settled into his command throne. Show them the cost of defiance. The fleet advanced. 40 destroyers formed the vanguard, shields overlapping in interlocking patterns. Behind them, 23 cruisers charged their main batteries. The dreadnoughts hung back, weapons cold. They wouldn't be needed. At 40,000 kilometers, the human stations opened fire. Railgun rounds screamed across the gap at 6 kilometers per second. Missiles burned hard on intercept courses. Point defense lasers stabbed through the dark. The defensive barrage looked impressive, right up until it struck Kalthari shields and dissipated like rain on stone. V.S.Tin's confidence showed in his relaxed posture. Enemy fire ineffective. Shields holding at 97%. Recommend maintaining current approach vector. Proceed. Zartok watched rounds ping harmlessly off his forward elements. Exactly as predicted. 200 years of enforced stagnation meant human weapons couldn't touch modern shielding. Return fire. Disable there. Every human station vanished. Not destroyed. Vanished. One moment they glowed on sensors, the next the tactical display showed empty orbital space. Sensor malfunction, V.S. Tin said immediately. Running diagnostics. Zartok's thermal pits chilled. All stations simultaneously. Recalibrating, negative malfunction. Stations are gone. No debris field, no energy signatures, no, the officer's voice climbed an octave. Commander, detecting massive power spikes. Electromagnetic spectrum across all frequencies. Source bearing, inside the planet. Impossible. Our scans showed no underground installations of sufficient. The moon opened. It split along the equator like an egg, two hemispheres pulling apart to reveal a geometric nightmare of machinery spanning 300 kilometers. Power conduits the size of skyscrapers pulsed with violet light. Capacitor arrays that could swallow cities discharged into a central focusing chamber. The whole impossible construction pointed directly at Zartok's fleet. Evasive action. He was already keying fleet-wide alerts. All ships scatter pattern Omega. Maximum burn. The weapon fired. It wasn't a beam or a projectile. Reality itself seemed to compress along a corridor of space, folding and crushing everything within a precisely defined column. 14 destroyers at the vanguard simply ceased to exist, their matter compressed to microscopic density and scattered across dimensional frequencies humans shouldn't have understood. The shockwave hit 3 seconds later. Zartok's dreadnought bucked hard enough to slam him against his restraints. Alarms shrieked. Vestin was shouting damage reports, but the words blurred together into noise. When the sensors cleared, 18 ships were gone. Not damaged. Gone. Full retreat. Zartok's voice cracked. Emergency jump protocols. FTL drives won't engage, his navigation officer reported, all 4 eyes wide with terror. Something's disrupting the dimensional matrices. We're locked in normal space. Chen's face reappeared on the view screen, expression unchanged. I did warn you about the 6-hour deadline, Commander. That was your only free demonstration. The next shot goes through your flagship. Zartok fought for composure. You, the Council, will never allow weapons of this magnitude violate 17 treaties. The Council has kept humanity in a cage for 2 centuries while telling us it's for our own protection. Chen's voice could have flash-frozen hydrogen. Did you really think we spent that time idle? We had nothing but time, Commander. Time to dig. Time to build. Time to plan. Mars flickered and disappeared from sensors. When it returned 3 seconds later, massive launch bays stood open along the Valles Marineris. Thousands of them. You see, we couldn't build ships, Chen continued conversationally. Council observers made sure of that. But they never thought to look too carefully at our mining operations. Our deep core research stations. Our planetary development programs. She leaned forward. We couldn't leave our system. So we turned our system into the weapon. Venus's atmosphere ignited. Not naturally. The entire cloud deck began rotating in synchronized patterns, massive turbines the size of continents converting the planet's hellish weather into harvestable energy. Collection arrays emerged from the acid clouds like breaching whales. 43 years ago, your council rejected humanity's petition for full membership, Chen said. They called us too aggressive. Too warlike. Too dangerous to integrate. Her smile turned razor-sharp. They were right about the dangerous part. Vestin's voice shook. Commander, the asteroid belt, it's moving. Coordinated movement across millions of objects. Their weapons platforms. All of them. Zartok stared at the tactical display as it updated. The belt that humanity had supposedly been mining for raw materials was reconfiguring itself into a 3-dimensional kill zone. Rocks that had orbited for 4 billion years now burned with maneuvering thrusters, revealed their hidden weapons, oriented themselves on his scattered fleet. This is insanity, he breathed. You've weaponized your entire solar system. Not the entire system, Chen corrected. We left Mercury alone. Someone has to manufacture the ammunition. She checked something off-screen. You have 53 ships left, Commander. I'm feeling generous, so I'll repeat my offer. Withdraw beyond the heliopause within 6 hours or we'll demonstrate what 200 years of suppressed rage looks like when it's been building weapons the size of planets. The Council will send armadas. Subjugation fleets that will arrive to find Earth protected by weapons you can't detect until they fire, positioned across billions of cubic kilometers of space, powered by our sun itself. Chen's eyes held nothing but cold calculation. We've done the math, Commander. Send your fleets. Send your armadas. Send everything you have. She paused. We'll be ready. The transmission cut. Zartok sat frozen in his command throne, staring at a tactical display that showed humanity's home system transforming before his eyes. Camouflaged weapons emerging from every moon, every planetoid, every carefully positioned piece of cosmic debris. 2 centuries of preparation unfolding in minutes. His communication officer's voice trembled. Commander, receiving priority Alpha from Council High Command. They're demanding immediate status report. Zartok looked at his shattered fleet, at the impossible weapons still powering up across the inner system, at Earth sitting calm and defiant in the center of its fortress. What exactly was he supposed to tell them? The Council's response arrived within 20 minutes. Not a status report request. A battle fleet. 300 warships tore through the heliopause at 0.7 lightspeed, led by the dreadnought Unrelenting Law. Fleet Marshal Krevtar commanded from the bridge, his species' 4 arms working multiple control interfaces simultaneously. His tactical display showed Zartok's battered remnants clustered near Jupiter's orbit, and the human homeworld sitting defiant and impossibly armed. All ships, combat formation Zeta. Charge heavy lances. We end this in one strike. Krevtar had subjugated 42 systems. Humans would be 43. Target their planetary weapons. Overwhelming firepower, simultaneous impact. The moon's weapon tracked toward his fleet. Venus's energy collectors rotated to optimal angles. The asteroid belt adjusted trajectories. All moving with inhuman precision. No. Moving with exactly human precision. Fire, Krevtar commanded. 300 ships unleashed concentrated plasma beams capable of cracking continents. The strikes lanced across millions of kilometers in perfect targeting solutions, converging on the moon's exposed weapon installation. They never arrived. Mercury flickered on sensors. The planet's entire sunward hemisphere split open, revealing mirror arrays that dwarfed anything in Council records. Concentrated solar radiation, compressed and focused through gravitational lensing, caught the incoming plasma strikes and reflected them back along their firing vectors. 17 ships exploded as their own weapons detonated against their forward shields at point-blank range. Impossible. Krevtar's thermal regulation failed, his carapace overheating. Redirect all. Earth's orbital stations reappeared. Not where they'd vanished from. They'd repositioned during stealth, forming a perfect firing solution on his fleet's starboard flank. And their weapons had changed. The railguns fired. But these weren't the primitive kinetic rounds from earlier. Each projectile split into 17 submunitions mid-flight, then split again, creating cascading clouds of shrapnel moving at relativistic velocities. The swarm enveloped his screening destroyers like a metal hurricane. Shield emitters overloaded trying to process thousands of impacts per second. Hulls designed to shrug off plasma strikes couldn't handle the simple physics of mass times velocity repeated infinitely. 23 destroyers tumbled out of formation, hull integrity compromised, atmosphere venting. Captain Jenna Martinez watched from Station 13's command center as her tactical officer called out hits. Multiple kills confirmed. Enemy formation disrupting. They're trying to scatter. Don't let them. Martinez had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Every drill, every simulation, every sleepless night wondering if the council would come before they were ready. All stations, pattern Hydra. Show them what happens when you give engineers 2 centuries and tell them they can't leave home. The stations fired again. This time the rounds contained microfusion warheads set to detonate at calculated intervals, creating a 3-dimensional minefield that the Council fleet was already diving into at combat speed. Krevtar watched his formation disintegrate. Emergency deceleration. All ships reverse thrust. Too late. The first warheads detonated. Then the second wave. Then the third. His fleet plowed through a gauntlet of nuclear fire, shields flickering and failing, armor sublimating under temperatures that matched stellar cores. On Earth, Director Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Status on the outer system assets? Her tactical coordinator, Commander James Park, pulled up the data. Saturn's rings are fully operational. Uranus and Neptune report ready status. The Kuiper Belt installations are tracking multiple targets. Chen nodded. 200 years ago, when the Council had restricted humanity to Earth after first contact, they'd made assumptions. That humans would accept their place. That 2 centuries of enforced stagnation would pacify the species. That a civilization restricted to one planet couldn't threaten an empire spanning hundreds of systems. They'd forgotten humans were persistence hunters. And 200 years was just the opening sprint. Activate the ring system, Chen ordered. Saturn had always been humanity's most audacious project. The rings weren't natural debris. Not anymore. 60 years of robotic construction had converted billions of ice chunks into individually maneuverable kinetic platforms. Each piece now burned with maneuvering thrusters, orienting on the Council fleet with patient precision. Launching, Park reported. The rings fired. Millions of ice chunks, each accelerated to 0.2 light speed by electromagnetic launchers built into Saturn's equatorial installations. A shotgun blast from a planetary god. Krevtar's sensors went white with contacts. Evasive action. Full defensive countermeasures. His point defense systems engaged automatically, tracking and destroying thousands of incoming projectiles. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. The defensive computers simply couldn't process targets fast enough. The ice round struck like the fist of creation. Kinetic energy converted to heat and pressure. Ships designed to withstand military-grade weapons shattered under impacts from frozen water moving at relativistic speeds. The physics didn't care about shield generators or hardened armor. Mass times velocity equaled catastrophe. 47 ships disintegrated in the first 10 seconds. Retreat. Krevtar's voice cracked across all frequencies. Full retreat to minimum jump distance. His navigation officer's 3 eyes stared at him in horror. Sir, the FTL inhibitors are still active. We're trapped in normal space. Deep in Earth's mantle, buried 500 kilometers below the surface, the dimensional anchor hummed with power. Humanity's first breakthrough after Council contact had been understanding faster-than-light physics. Their second had been learning to prevent it. The anchor's field extended across the entire solar system, turning humanity's cage into a killing jar. Lieutenant Sarah Kim piloted her interceptor through the debris field, hunting targets. No human ships capable of FTL travel, the Council had mandated. So humanity built sublight craft that could outmaneuver anything the Council fielded. Her fighter's fusion torch pushed 800 gravities with inertial dampening that would have made Council engineers weep with envy. Wardog 6, I've got a cruiser trying to break orbit, her wingman called. He's yours if you want him. Kim grinned and angled her interceptor into a hard burn. Copy that, Wardog 3. Going for engine kill. The Council cruiser's point defense tracked her approach, filling space with plasma fire. Kim's ship jinked and rolled, staying inside the weapon's targeting solution envelope where their predictive algorithms fell apart. Humans didn't fly straight lines. Humans hunted. She released her payload at 6,000 kilometers. The missile looked primitive: chemical rocket, basic guidance, warhead that barely registered as a threat. The cruiser's automated defenses ignored it in favor of tracking Kim's fighter. The missile detonated 200 meters from the engine housing. Not a nuclear warhead. Something simpler. A shaped charge that sent a stream of molten copper through the reactor shielding at 19 kilometers per second. The cruiser's engines died. Momentum carried the ship forward, dead and helpless, into the waiting field of Station 9's railguns. Splash 1 cruiser, Kim reported, already hunting her next target. Wardog flight, reform on my position. Let's clear the orbital space. Back on the unrelenting law, Krevtar watched his fleet die. 214 ships remained from the 300 he'd brought. No, 212. 208. The numbers fell faster than his tactical officers could update them. Sir, receiving priority Alpha from Council High Command, his communications officer reported. They're ordering us to, the officer paused, reading. To assess human capabilities and report immediately. Krevtar's laugh came out harsh and bitter. Tell them humanity has converted their entire solar system into a weapons platform. Tell them we're being systematically destroyed by frozen water and mining equipment. Tell them. He watched another 3 ships vanish from his display. Tell them we need planetary subjugation protocols. Siege fleets. System crackers. They're asking about human ship deployment, sir. Fleet composition, capital ship counts. The humans have no ships. Krevtar slammed 2 fists against his throne. They don't need ships. They've turned 8 planets, 200 moons, and 1 billion asteroids into artillery positions, and we flew right into the middle of it. On Earth, Chen watched the Council fleet's formation collapse. They were learning, adapting tactics, trying to group their remaining capital ships for a concentrated push toward the planet. Good commanders doing everything right. It wouldn't matter. Commander Park, status on the solar collectors? 93% charged. Estimated time to full power, 4 minutes. Chen nodded. The solar collectors had been humanity's largest engineering project. Dyson swarm satellites, thousands of them, orbiting close to the sun and harvesting its output. Each satellite gathered energy. Together, they could channel it. Begin focusing sequence, Chen ordered. Target the enemy capital ships. Mercury's mirror arrays rotated into position. Venus's energy collectors aligned. The solar swarm synchronized, billions of square kilometers of collection surface directing concentrated stellar radiation toward a single focal point. The beam that emerged could have been seen from another solar system. Compressed solar fury, contained and directed, struck the unrelenting law's shields at an angle calculated to overwhelm their thermal dissipation. Krevtar felt his ship's shields collapse. Felt the temperature spike as radiation meant to span light years compressed into a corridor of ultimate destruction. Felt his dreadnought's armor begin to sublime. Emergency jump, he screamed. Override the dimensional lock. Full power to FTL drives. His engineer's response was drowned by alarms as the beam tracked across his fleet, touching each capital ship with seconds of focused starfire. Dreadnoughts built to crack planets melted like wax under a blowtorch. Chen watched the last of the Council's heavy ships lose integrity. Cease fire. Let the survivors run. Park looked at her questioningly. Ma'am, we can finish them. We could, Chen agreed. But we need witnesses. She turned to face the main view screen, where Earth hung serene and blue against the black. The council needs to understand what they're facing. Let them tell the others what happens when you back humanity into a corner and give them 200 years to sharpen their teeth. In the debris field that had been a council enforcement fleet, Krevtar's battered flagship limped toward the edge of the solar system. Behind him, 97 ships remained from the 373 that had entered human space. The dimensional anchor released. His FTL drive spun up. And as they jumped away, Krevtar realized the horrible truth. This wasn't humanity's full capability. This was just what they'd been willing to show. What else had they built in 2 centuries of enforced isolation? The question hung in Krevtar's mind as his damaged flagship cleared the heliopause. What else had humanity built? He got his answer 6 hours later when the Council's Retribution Armada arrived. Supreme Commander Thelnax brought the hammer. 800 warships including 12 planet crackers, vessels designed to shatter worlds from orbit. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 16,000 years. No single system species had ever defied them and survived. Attention, human authority, Thelnax transmitted. Your resistance ends now. Surrender unconditionally or witness your planet reduced to asteroids. Director Chen appeared on screen, looking like she hadn't slept. She probably hadn't. Supreme Commander. I was hoping you'd send someone senior enough to understand what I'm about to tell you. You have no negotiating position. I'm not negotiating. Chen's smile was winter itself. I'm explaining. When your council restricted us to Earth 200 years ago, we had a choice. Accept our cage or turn it into a fortress. We chose fortress. She leaned forward. But we didn't stop at defensive preparations. We planned for this exact scenario. The one where you brought everything. Thelnax's chitinous plates rippled with irritation. 800 ships versus a species trapped on one world. Your defensive grid is impressive but finite. We will overwhelm. Earth's moon split further apart. The weapon that had destroyed Zartok's vanguard rotated, revealing 12 identical barrels. All 12 began charging simultaneously. Mars launched. Not missiles. Ships. Thousands of autonomous combat drones, each one nuclear-powered and carrying payloads designed to crack capital ship armor. They'd been hidden in the Valles Marineris for 70 years, waiting. Venus's atmosphere ignited in patterns that spelled out a simple message in council script: try it. You see, we knew you'd escalate, Chen continued conversationally. So we built in redundancy. Layers. Every planet has surprises. Every moon is a weapons platform. Every asteroid contains something you don't want to meet. She paused. Want to know what Jupiter's been hiding? Jupiter's great red spot pulsed. The storm that had raged for centuries suddenly organized, revealing a geometric structure beneath the clouds. Power signatures spiked across electromagnetic spectrums the Council had thought theoretical. Atmospheric processing on a planetary scale, Chen explained. 50 years converting Jupiter's hydrogen into antimatter. We've been storing it in magnetic containment fields wrapped around the core. Current inventory, enough to glass every council homeworld twice over. Thelnax felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 centuries of military service. Fear. You're bluffing. Antimatter production at that scale is impossible? Chen's laugh was sharp. That's what your scientists said about dimensional anchors too. About solar focusing arrays. About gravitational lensing. You spent 2 centuries telling us what we couldn't do while we did it anyway. She leaned back. Jupiter's just the stockpile. Saturn's processing new batches. Uranus and Neptune are manufacturing delivery systems. The Kuiper Belt? That's where we test them. On Thelnax's tactical display, Saturn's rings reconfigured into a 3-dimensional grid. Uranus's poles opened, revealing launch bays that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Neptune's storms organized into power collection matrices. The outer system was transforming before his eyes. "This is madness," he breathed. "This is what happens when you trap an entire species on one planet and tell them to sit quietly." Chen's voice went cold. "We sat. We planned. We built. And now you're sitting in our solar system with 800 ships thinking you're the predator." Her eyes held nothing but absolute certainty. "You're not. You're prey that wandered into the wrong territory." Lieutenant Kim's fighter squadron screamed past Thelnax's flagship, close enough that their fusion torches washed his shields with radiation. Taunting. Showing off. Demonstrating the speed advantage that made Council fighters look like they were moving in molasses. "All wings, weapons free," came the transmission across human combat frequencies. "Let's show them what happens when you give fighter jocks 200 years to optimize their designs." 3,000 human interceptors engaged. Against 800 capital ships it should have been suicide. Council point defense was designed to swat aside attack craft like insects. But human fighters didn't fly predictable patterns. They hunted. Each pilot moved with creativity that machine learning targeting systems couldn't process. They fired missiles that split into submunitions that split again, creating cascading kill chains. They used the debris from previous battles as cover, as weapons, as psychological warfare. Kim's targeting computer locked onto a destroyer's engine cluster. Wardog 6, Fox 3. Her missile streaked away, followed by 17 more from her squadron. The destroyer's point defense engaged, killing 14 missiles. The other 4 detonated in perfect sequence, each blast channeling the next deeper into the ship's engineering section. The destroyer's reactor went critical. The explosion took 2 nearby cruisers with it. "Splash 1 destroyer, 2 cruisers," Kim reported, already lining up her next target. "Wardog flight, stay tight. Watch your 6 and keep them guessing." Across the battlefield, human tactics shredded Council formations. Fighters that could pull maneuvers no organic pilot should survive. Missiles with AI cores that had been trained on 2 centuries of simulated combat. Point defense networks that tracked targets with precision born from desperation-fueled innovation. Thelnax watched his fleet die and finally understood. Humanity hadn't just built weapons. They'd built a military doctrine around being trapped. Around using every resource available. Around turning disadvantages into killing opportunities. "Supreme Commander, enemy casualties?" his tactical officer asked. 47 fighters lost, came the report. 2 orbital stations damaged. 0 capital ships, they don't have capital ships. Thelnax's command throne felt like a death sentence. His fleet had lost 193 ships. The humans had lost 47 fighters. Chen's transmission cut through his horror. "You're down to 607 ships, Supreme Commander. I'm going to make you an offer. Leave now, and I let you keep them. Stay another 10 minutes, and I activate the Kuiper installations. You won't like what they do. The Council will never." The Council already lost. Chen's voice was absolute. They lost the moment they thought restriction would pacify us instead of focusing our creativity. They lost when they underestimated what humans do when you tell us something is impossible. They lost 200 years ago when they decided to make enemies instead of allies. The Moon's 12 weapon arrays reached full charge. Jupiter's antimatter reserve stood ready for deployment. Saturn's kinetic platforms oriented on his flagship. Mars's drone swarms repositioned for optimal strike vectors. The entire solar system hummed with barely restrained destructive potential. "Last chance," Chen said. "Run back to the Council. Tell them Earth is off limits. Tell them what happens when you corner a predator species and give them 2 centuries to prepare. Tell them, she smiled without humor. Tell them humanity remembers. Thelnax looked at his tactical display. At his dying fleet. At the impossible weapons humanity had built in secret. At a species that had converted isolation into arsenal. All ships, emergency jump coordinates. Maximum distance. His voice held the weight of complete defeat. We're leaving. Smart choice, Chen said. Don't come back. The council fleet jumped. 607 ships from the 800 that had arrived. As they vanished into faster-than-light transit, Thelnax composed his report. How did he explain this? How did he tell the council that a single-system species had defeated their finest fleets using mining equipment and planetary engineering? On Earth, Director Chen watched the tactical display clear. Commander Park approached with casualty reports. 47 fighters lost, he said quietly. Stations 2 and 7 need repairs but remain operational. Total human casualties, 312 dead, 819 wounded. Chen bowed her head briefly. 312 lives. Each one had volunteered. Each one had known the risks. Each one had died buying humanity's freedom from council oversight. Log their names, she said. Every single one. This victory is theirs. Across the solar system, human crews began securing installations and recovering damaged fighters. Station commanders checked their ammunition stores and power reserves. Engineers surveyed battle damage and planned repairs. The work of defending Earth continued. Chen's communication console chimed. Encrypted transmission, broad spectrum, originating from council space. She routed it to her private terminal. The message was simple. 47 species had received the same transmission simultaneously. Battle footage from human combat recorders. Complete tactical analysis of both engagements. Casualty figures. Weapon specifications. Everything. And a single line of text, Sol System. Restricted zone. Approach at own risk. The Quilix were the first to respond. Their ambassador's message was brief, coordinates marked. Will not intrude. Then the Varanthi. The Kolneth. The Sistrix Collective. One by one, species across the galaxy updated their navigation databases. Sol System, Omega-class threat. Restricted. Chen watched the responses compile and felt something she hadn't felt in 43 years. Since the day the Council rejected humanity's petition. Since the day she'd committed herself to preparing for this exact scenario. Relief. Ma'am? Park stood at her shoulder. What do we do now? Chen looked at Earth through the viewport. Storms spiraled over the Pacific. City lights glittered across the night side. 7 billion humans going about their lives, most of them unaware of the battle that had just secured their future. Now? She smiled. Now we keep building. The Council won't forget this. They'll plan. They'll adapt. And in 50 years, or 100, they might try again. She turned to face him. So we make sure that when they do, we're even more ready than we were today. Park nodded slowly. What should I tell the engineering teams? Chen's smile turned sharp. Tell them to start working on the outer planets. Tell them we've got a whole Oort cloud full of real estate that needs weaponizing. Tell them. She paused, looking back at the stars. Tell them Earth doesn't start wars. But we damn sure finish them. The message spread through the galaxy at the speed of light and gossip. In military academies across 1,000 worlds, human tactics became required study. In strategic planning centers, Earth's conversion of an entire solar system into a weapons platform became the new standard for defensive preparation. In the halls of the Galactic Council, one question dominated every discussion. What else had humanity built that they hadn't shown? On Earth, Director Sarah Chen stood in the command center that had coordinated the defense of humanity's homeworld. Behind her, tactical displays showed a solar system at peace. Before her, through reinforced viewports, Earth turned slowly in the dark. 200 years in a cage. 200 years of being told humans were too dangerous, too aggressive, too primitive for galactic society. The Council had been right about the dangerous part. And now the entire galaxy knew it.